And research carried out by the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has revealed that political parties in Ghana, on average, spend about 800,000 cedis in election years. And it goes on to say that this was according to the IEA after a research. The institution added, however, that despite the important constitutionally mandated roles played by the political parties in the country and the high cost they incur, especially performing their roles, they are left to fend for themselves without enough support from the state. We've been joined by a senior research fellow at the IEA in charge of governance, Dr. Ransford Gyampo. He addressed the media on Thursday to give us some clarity on these numbers that we are hearing. Good afternoon, Dr. Gyampo, and thank you for your time. Hello, Dr. Gyampo. All right, I mean, the numbers we are hearing are quite staggering because 800,000 cedis, especially within just an election year. And according to the research, we are told that in excess of about 100,000 cedis is spent a month just to run and maintain all the political parties in the various districts. That is 100,000 cedis. And then also about 10,000 cedis is spent by the political parties on utility bills and rent. And then 8,000 cedis on political, on payment of salaries. And it's pretty interesting. We wanted Dr. Gyampo to give us some clarity on this and how the research was conducted in the first place. But we seem to be having some challenge in getting through to him. And we've been joined on the line. Okay, I'm told that we have the senior lecturer at the political science department of the University of Ghana, and also Dr. Gyampo, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good afternoon.
Sorry for the mix-up there, but can you help us with some understanding? You were quoted as saying that political parties are the most neglected state institutions. Are political parties state institutions, so-called?
Thank you very much. I think maybe I was misquoted. What I sought to say was that in spite of the constitutionally imposed mandate, of political parties in every multi-party democracy, it seems to me that in Ghana, they are the most neglected public political institutions that we have, and that's what I said.
And you estimated that parties spend in excess of about 800,000 cedis monthly, especially during election years. How did you come by this figure, sir?
Oh, I do research. It's just a matter of going to speak to politicians and then also looking at some of the things, the cost of some of the things they spent on. If you were there at the presentation here yesterday, I believe I showed the table for you to see. We know the cost of one advert on in Daily Graphic, for instance. The cost of one advertising slot during peak seasons, on TV, on radio. We know the cost of one giant billboard, and then we know that after paying for that billboard, you keep paying every month so long as the billboard continues to stand. We know the cost of one, let's say, used vehicle that 4x4 or pickup that political parties may want to give maybe one at least to each of their constituencies, and we know all these costs. And so you look at them and then you run averages, and then you'll be able to come out with something, because the political parties themselves oftentimes are not prepared to volunteer willingly some of these information, but you could go behind them and do your independent assessment and all that. So yesterday when I presented, they were there and they could not controvert it.
You are the director at the Lagos Center for European Studies and a senior political science. Comparatively, would you say political parties in our side of the world or in Ghana are spending more in this regard as compared to other political parties elsewhere?
Yeah, they are spending more, way above what they are, what ideally they would be required to spend, and this is particularly so because we don't have laws on public fund. There's no bill on public funding of political parties, and again because they are taking money surreptitiously, from everywhere, and so the more you spend, and the idea is that the more you spend and become visible, the more your chances of winning. And so because of that, there is that spending. And my concern is that if you allow them without placing ceiling, in other democracies, there is an amount of money, or there is a ceiling beyond which you cannot spend during electioneering campaign. Unfortunately, we do not have that regulation. And so if you allow an unbridled expenditure of political parties, especially in the lead up to election, it creates recipe for corruption, because once the person comes to power, he wants to recoup everything that may have been lost during the election.
Exactly the point I was going to, because the previous elections, we were told that there is this issue called monocracy overtaking our legitimate democracy. And so if they spend this much, isn't there the fear then that when they do come into power, they would want to enrich themselves, to make up for the amounts they've lost?
Well, so that's why we're calling for public funding of political parties. That already, like I said, there is a draft bill that has been submitted to the president way back in 2010. That bill would contain, let's say, ceiling on the amount of money that can be given to political parties, and it will also require that you do not have to go beyond that ceiling. I was in South Africa some time ago, just observing even student elections, and students were given amount beyond which, the ceiling beyond which they could not spend in their campaign. One of them overspent and he was disqualified. And so my point is, as a nation, we will have to be able to learn some of these things as we climb higher the ladder of democratic progression. I've argued that the cost of chaos oftentimes associated with democratic relapse is more than the cost of funding political parties. Political parties must appreciate this. Ghanaians must understand this. And leaders in power, politicians in power must know that power is transient. When they are in opposition, they clamor for public funding of political parties. When they get to power, they develop cold feet. We should all appreciate the fact that without public funding, election becomes necessarily a do or die affair, because whoever wins an election gets an ATM machine, veranda, and that makes the elections overly competitive, and
for the
possibility
parties.
of it degenerating into violence, is always high. If we do not want to continue to turn to prayer centers and be storing Gary simply because there's going to be elections, then we should all have a positive idea and support for the call for public funding of political parties.
We are grateful for your time, Dr. Ransford Gyampo. He's the director, Legon Center for European Studies, and a senior lecturer as well. Thank you very much for your time